Hello, Fun Nation. My name is James, checking in here with legendary Team 118, the Robonauts, here at the first championship, and this robot is just incredible. They've won 8 blue banners already, and there are so many engineering marvels that go into this robot. The iterations are incredible. You won't want to miss learning about all the things they've done here. With me, I have Milo, Luke, Alex, Ethan, and Elena. Let's find out more on Behind the Bumpers. All right, Milo, let's get started. We're going to talk through the fuel path of this robot. Let's learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll go a little bit into depth about what we did prior to week 1 and during our build season. So a lot of our focus with this architecture was throughput. The idea was to intake not so many balls, not a giant like Robotier's 100 ball hopper, but get around 40 balls and just shoot them as fast as you can. So that was the idea behind what we call the magazine. The magazine was what we originally ran. It was a active roller serpentine belt solution. So our intake would grab balls into 2 different channels, one with a 6-inch gap in the center. The balls would come up the side of the robot, the front of the robot. They would go along to the back. They would go down through the middle and then back down towards the shooters. In theory, we could hold around 44 balls, but in practice, there was a lot of issues with staggering at week 1, and we ended up switching to a more open style hopper, eventually switching to a full width hopper week 6 at Denver. So going down into this intake that we have, it's a deployable slot-based hopper and a kind of citrus style 2-bar intake with cycloidals on the side and a jack shaft going through to keep everything synchronized. There's a motor down in the center, an X44, and it goes through a small torque reduction to the 21-to-1 cycloidal gear reduction. On the intake, we have a belt roller. This is a Vex Pro product, silicone intake roller, as well as intake insert pulleys that Vex Pro also used to sell. We have a breaker bar in the front that has rollers. That way, whenever balls come up, they don't get pinched between the front and the roller. They just begin to slip on here. And we have cat tongue tape down on the back to make sure everything's gripping well.
Before we get to our next segment, we'd like to thank the following. FRCT's Managed Store Program is an easy and profitable way to fundraise for your team or off-season event. FRCTs will handle everything from production, packaging, bulk or drop shipping, payment collection, and accounting. Teams can set their own prices, and FRCTs will take care of the rest. Fill out a quote request or get more information when you schedule a callback at frcts.com.
If you see this HDPE track, it has a weird shape. So this arc actually is concentric with this pivot point. So as this moves for the first little bit, it's able to agitate balls without causing issues with friction on the hopper, without having to deal with the compression of balls. That way we can do stuff, kind of isolate the motions as we go. The motion of the hopper is all within this last section of motion in the top little bit of that track. Now I'm going to hand it off to Alex, who will talk to you a little bit about the indexing.
Thanks, Milo. I'm Alex. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about our hopper. Our hopper is broken up into 3 main parts: a fuel splitter we like to call our TP, a belt floor that feeds directly into our shooters, and a set of 3 rollers right before our shooters that we call our lower bank. Starting off with our TP, it's powered by a single Kraken X44 that spins these 2 sets of belts in opposite directions. There's a dead axle in the center, and these 2 are live axles, powered by the X44, and they're directly geared together. On this side, we have grippy belts from West Coast Products. On this side, we don't, so that a ball doesn't jam down and get caught into our shooter, which we saw early on, causing a lot of double ball jams. The second part of our hopper is our belt floor. Our belt floor is powered by, again, another single Kraken X44, powering both sides through a jack shaft coupler that runs across the entire length of our robot. Lastly is our lower bank. As Milo was talking about, we had active control at the start of the year, and this is kind of remnants of that active control. These 3 rollers spin into a 1.5 wide channel to stagger the fuel into these streamer rollers, which are mechanism rollers that allow the staggered fuel to go into one stream to feed into the shooter. At our last competition, we added a counter roller into our lower bank because we had issues with balls getting jammed between these bevel gears and this wall. And counterrolling helps agitate and popcorn the fuel to feed into the shooters.
Before we get to our next segment, we'd like to thank the following. Cut is the premier metal cutting service for first teams. No minimum order, options for same-day turnaround, 3D tube laser cutting, and with nearly 500 variations of metal in stock and ready to cut. Just upload a file and claim your 50% off discount when you scan the QR code or go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHCUT.
Speaking of the shooters, I'm going to hand the microphone off to Ethan to tell you about our shooters.
Hi, my name is Ethan, and these are our shooters. We have a twin turret design. First of all, we have the turreting mechanism, which is powered by a gear, which goes to a chain into a reduction into a single X44 motor to turn both shooters. Next, we have our shooter wheels, which are powered. One is powered by an X44, and the other is powered by a minion, which is pressed into this aluminum insert with silicone tubing on the outside. Next up, we have our hood, which is actuated by a servo, which sits inside of the shooter. Furthermore, we have the integration into from the lower feeding system, which features a large diameter 9-inch bearing, which overall we kept our turret really small to get a 11.68 diameter sweep and about 280 degrees of rotation. Furthermore, these shooters are capable of handling up to 20 balls per second. And they are also tied together by harnesses, which Elena can tell you more about.
Hi, my name is Elena, and I will talk a little bit about the harnesses. So we geared the harnesses together with an E-chain, and we started off doing this with a plastic E-chain that we shaved the restrictions off, but we found that this kept breaking, so we put a piece of polycarbonate behind the double snakeskin, but that also snapped on us. So we decided just to use the double snakeskin with the carriage in the center that as one shooter rotates, the harness unrolls and lengthens to allow for this one to spool up. So as you can see, the carriage in the center right here moves back and forth, allowing for this length to transfer in between the two shooters. So in addition, because the entire robot is basically ball space, we put the PDP at a slant angle here because we had no other spot to put it. And right here on the other side, we have the Robo Rio with our custom can node on top and a Rio hat. So we could have a locking Molex connector. And then on the robot, we also have 3 limelights. We have 2 side limelights and a back limelight. Now I'll hand it back over to Milo.
All right, so I'll talk a little bit about this climb here. The best way to think about this climb is a wrist and elbow mechanism. So down in the base, we have a linear actuator powered by an X44, and that powers the kind of elbow mechanism here. So if you can imagine right now, the elbow and wrist are kind of sitting like this. Whenever we go to deploy the climb, that linear actuator powers the elbow to go up like this, and we are the wrist sits about right here, ready to get the posts in here. These pegs stick to the side, and they sit flush to the rectangular upright. Whenever that is flush, we are able to begin pulling back the elbow. We do that instead of you might think Penn State initially. They just do a single rotation. We have to do that pullback because since our climb is centered, if we don't do that pullback, the bumpers clip the ground and we wouldn't be able to climb. Gradually, as we begin to pull back the elbow, the wrist begins to rotate, and once it reaches about 90 degrees, the elbow has stopped moving and it begins to push back out. By the end of the rotation, the wrist has flipped 180 degrees, and the elbow is in the same deployed spot, which kind of does a pull up, wrap around, and then pull up on the bar. I'm gonna hand it off to Luke, our software chief engineer.
Hello, my name is Luke, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the software of this robot. So for starters, I want to talk about the driver station. So our driver controls the robot primarily through the use of a controller, and his co-pilot uses this button pad to control the rest of the robot. Now, mainly, the co-pilot uses this to control his shots and the climb of the robot. So most of these buttons in the lower half are specifically for the climb, and the top portion of the button pad is for tuning the shooter You can see some like slow and speed up buttons. If the shooters are sometimes shooting a little long or too short due to the balls or the condition of the wheels, then the co-pilot clicks this to speed up or tune the shooters. Following that, we have our speakers. This is one of our proudest ideas here. We saw that in the first 2 weeks, our co-pilot spent a lot of time and energy giving call-outs to the driver and the drive coach. And this was a very automatable task. The robot receives the current game time through FMS, and it also gets the who won Auton and who lost Auton. So through this, we have our driver station laptop, which is running a program that is able to connect to the robot, read the current game time, and read the status of the match. So the speakers give the time to the driver. They'll count down the shifts. It'll go 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Your hub is now active. It also counts down to the end of the match. This is really useful for the driver knowing when to climb, because we have to start climbing at very specific times, otherwise we will not make it. So following this, I would like to talk a little about our Autons. And this year we have a new path planning software. So here's a look at it here. So you can see here that this is all custom software. It's heavily inspired by Path Planner. It shares a lot of the same characteristics as Path Planner. You'll see here that this is one of our auto paths. We call it the rush. It rushes out to the center line, and I can play it for you here. So this Path Planner generates model vectors and will export it to the robot so they can be run during a match. It has the ability to add waypoints, uses Bezier curves, and it can also optimize for the best path shapes. All right, and moving on. In addition to this Path Planner, we also found that in the first 3 weeks of competitions, the strategy crew often wanted to change the Auton or what we were running in Auton very frequently, especially right before a match, based on where other robots were setting up in the trench on the opposing alliance. Because oftentimes, the opposing alliance would place robots on the other side of the trench to mess up your auto. So because of this, we developed a system to dynamically choose our autos right before a match. So the drivers have a few different paths they can select from at the beginning of the match. They have what we call, it started off as just lanes. So these lanes were lanes ordered 1 through 7, where 1 was very close to the hub and 7 was as far across the center line as we could go without being completely over. So this worked very well for a few competitions, but then we decided that we needed more. And the drivers wanted more paths. They wanted paths that could reach the center faster or collect balls in a specific way. So then we developed paths like this rush path, teardrop path, a bigger teardrop path, and even a lane 8, which was to be a really safe lane 7. So these paths can all be dynamically selected by the driver or strategy crew right before a match. Now this path chooser also had the ability to climb in auto. So because of our climber, the climber is able to climb in auto, but it does not climb by getting on their traditional side of the climb. It climbs by driving into the center of the climb. So this is actually a really big challenge for us software-wise, as we struggled a lot climbing into the center or driving autonomously into the center of the climb structure. We eventually settled on an algorithm that just tries to drive, get the back limelight into the center of the climb tag, and this works extremely well for what we were trying to do, and we have a very high success rate in our auto climb now.
So in our earlier prototyping in the season, we've kind of been looking at different ways to build the chassis. We immediately noticed that the hub was going to be, or the bumps were going to be extremely difficult to get over with 1x2 box tube or 2x2 box tube. So we tried, as soon as we had gotten our Mark 5N modules put together, we tried a 1x1 box tube chassis. So all of the box tube in the chassis you see is 1x1 box tube. In the earlier prototyping, when we were first driving that chassis around just to test the Mark V ends, the rigidity was excellent. It was pretty much exactly comparable to 1x2 box tube. So we made the decision to do this 1x1 box tube chassis with some extra protection from the bumpers on the bottom just to make it slick.
Well, Team 118, the Robonauts, just an incredible robot. It was so much fun to learn about that. And best of luck here the rest of the way at the first championship. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is James for the Fun Robotics Network, signing off.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay up to date on future fun videos. Osh Cut is the premier metal cutting service for first teams. No minimum order, options for same-day turnaround, 3D tube laser cutting, and with nearly 500 variations of metal in stock and ready to cut. Just upload a file and claim your 50% off discount when you scan the QR code or go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHCUT. FRCT's Managed Store Program is an easy and profitable way to fundraise for your team or off-season event. FRCTs will handle everything from production, packaging, bulk or drop shipping, payment collection, and accounting. Teams can set their own prices and FRCTs will take care of the rest. Fill out a quote request or get more information when you schedule a callback at frcts.com.